Cleared out your childish comics. Got $50 at the yard sale, Mom texted proudly, attaching a photo of empty shelves where my carefully preserved collection had lived for 20 years. I stared at the message during my lunch break at the museum where I worked as an archivist, calculating that she'd just sold approximately $4.7 million worth of Golden Age comics for less than the price of dinner. The real question wasn't whether I could forgive her. It was whether I could save even a single book from being destroyed by whoever thought they'd gotten a bargain. I hope the buyer enjoys them, I texted back, my hands surprisingly steady despite the earthquake in my chest. Finally growing up, she responded with 3 laughing emojis. Maybe now you'll focus on real investments instead of picture books. I set my phone down and returned to cataloging a donated collection of 19th century manuscripts. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days preserving history while my mother had just thrown mine in a yard sale box marked Old Comics, $50 or best offer. The collection hadn't been random accumulation. It started with my father, who'd bought comics in the 1940s with his paper route money. He'd kept them pristine, stored in his mother's attic, forgotten until I found them when I was 10. Dad was already gone by then. Cancer took him when I was 7, but those comics became my connection to him. I'd added to the collection strategically over the years, using my allowance, birthday money, later my salary. Every purchase researched, every storage method studied. Acid-free bags, climate control, meticulous documentation. What Mom saw as childish obsession was actually careful curation. My phone rang 53 minutes later. Unknown number, local area code. Mr. Morrison? This is Janet Crawford from Crawford Auction House. I'm calling about a comic collection that was just brought to us for authentication. My heart stopped. Yes. The gentleman who brought them claims he purchased them at a yard sale this morning. He mentioned they came from the Morrison household. I'm calling because, well, sir, are you aware that there's an Action Comics #1 in this collection? The world tilted. I gripped my desk. Mr. Morrison? I'm here. Yes, there should be an Action Comics #1. June 1938. First appearance of Superman. There should also be Detective Comics #27, Marvel Comics #1, and approximately 43 other Golden Age keys. Silence. Then, sir, I need to ask, was this sale authorized? Because what we're looking at here is significant. My mother sold them without my knowledge while I was at work. I see. And these comics belong to? Me. I can provide documentation. Purchase receipts, insurance appraisals, photos of the collection in my possession dating back 15 years. Mr. Morrison, I need to be very clear about something. The Action Comics #1 alone, we're looking at a CGC 6.0 grade, possibly higher. At auction, that's approximately $3.2 million. Mom's scream could be heard 3 blocks away. I know because I was standing outside her house when Crawford Auction House called her to verify the sale. I'd driven over immediately, knowing they'd need to contact her as the seller. She burst out the front door, still in her gardening clothes, phone pressed to her ear, face the color of old paper. What do you mean $3 million? I waited by my car as she paced the driveway, her voice climbing octaves. That's impossible. They were just old comics. My son's childhood things. I sold them for $50. She saw me then. The phone slipped from her hand, clattering on the concrete. Tyler, she whispered. Hi, Mom. They said $3 million just for one comic? $3.2 million, likely. For Action Comics #1. The full collection is worth approximately $4.7 million. She sank onto the porch steps. But you're a museum archivist. You make $40,000 a year. $43,000, actually. And yes, I live modestly because every spare penny went into preserving and expanding Dad's collection. Your father's, these were Bob's comics? Some of them. The foundation, anyway. Action Comics, Detective Comics, Marvel Comics, those were his. Bought off newsstands when he was 12. Her face crumpled. Oh God. Oh my God. I sat beside her, careful not to touch. We'd never been a hugging family, and this didn't seem like the time to start. I need to get them back, she said frantically. I'll call the buyer, Mr. Hendricks, explained the mistake. He'll understand. I'll give him his $50 back. It doesn't work that way, Mom. But it was a mistake. I didn't know. You didn't ask. You never asked. 20 years of calling them childish, telling me to grow up, to get rid of the clutter. You never once asked why they mattered. They were comic books. They were history. They were art. They were Dad's childhood preserved. They were my inheritance from him, the only thing he left specifically to me. She was crying now, ugly sobs that shook her shoulders. I'll fix this. I'll sell the house. Your house is worth maybe $400,000 in this market. The comics are worth $4.7 million. And Mr. Hendricks? He knows exactly what he bought. He's probably already celebrating. But legally you sold them. He paid. Transaction complete. The fact that you didn't know their value doesn't void the sale. This can't be happening. My phone buzzed. A text from Janet Crawford. Mr. Hendricks is willing to sell the collection back for $4.5 million. Interested? I showed Mom the screen. She made a sound like air leaving a punctured tire. Where would you get $4.5 million? She asked desperately. I wouldn't. I don't have that kind of money. Nobody in our family does. But they're yours. Or mine. Until you decided they were childish clutter. She grabbed my hands, something she hadn't done since Dad's funeral. Tyler, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. There has to be something we can do. I looked at her, really looked at her. 63 years old, widowed at 40, raised 2 kids alone. She'd worked double shifts at the hospital, saved every penny for our college funds, never remarried because you kids come first. She'd also spent 20 years dismissing the one thing that connected me to my father. There might be one option, I said slowly. Anything. I've been documenting the collection for insurance purposes. Detailed photos, condition notes, provenance records. Everything you need for authentication. Okay. If this goes to court, if I claim the comics were sold without my authorization, that you had no legal right to sell my property, it could get complicated. Hope bloomed in her eyes. Yes, we'll do that. Mom, think about what you're asking. You'd have to admit to theft. Or at minimum, conversion of property. That's criminal. I don't care. You should care. Your nursing license. Your reputation. Everything you worked for could be destroyed. She deflated. So either you lose millions or I lose everything. Those aren't the only options. My phone rang. Janet Crawford again. Mr. Morrison? I've been speaking with Mr. Hendricks. He's an interesting man. Says he remembers your father. What? Apparently, Bob Morrison sold him comics back in the 70s. Says your dad gave him a good deal on Amazing Fantasy number 15 when he was just starting to collect. He remembered the Morrison name from the sale this morning. I put her on speaker so Mom could hear. He wants to meet with you both. Today, if possible. He has a proposition. We drove to Crawford Auction House in silence. Mom clutched her purse like a life preserver, knuckles white. I kept my eyes on the road, trying not to think about Action Comics number 1 in someone else's hands. The auction house occupied a converted bank building downtown. Mr. Hendricks waited in the authentication room, surrounded by my comics. Seeing them spread across the examination table was like watching strangers go through family photos. He was older than I expected, maybe 75, wearing a cardigan that had seen better decades. His eyes lit up when he saw me. Tyler Morrison. You look just like your father. You knew him? Met him at comic conventions in the 70s and 80s. Good man. Fair dealer. Never tried to cheat kids out of valuable books like some did. He gestured at the collection. He'd be proud of what you built on his foundation. Thank you. He turned to Mom. Mrs. Morrison. You gave me quite a deal this morning. She couldn't meet his eyes. I didn't know. Of course you didn't. Nobody sells Action Comics number 1 for $50 on purpose. He picked up the book, still in its protective sleeve. Your husband sold me my first significant comic. Amazing Fantasy number 15. Spider-Man's first appearance. I was 19, working construction, couldn't really afford it. Bob gave me payment terms. $20 a month for 6 months. No interest. That sounds like Bob, Mom whispered. Changed my life. That comic started my collection. Led to a career as a dealer. Eventually opened 3 stores. All because Bob Morrison trusted a kid to pay him back. Mr. Hendricks, I started, but he held up a hand. I've been collecting for 55 years. Seen every major book, owned most of them at one time or another. But I never had Action number 1. Holy Grail, you know? So when I saw it this morning, mixed in with what looked like reader copies, he shook his head. I knew it was valuable. Not 3.2 million valuable, but valuable. You took advantage, Mom said quietly. Yes, he admitted. I did. Paid $50 for millions in comics. Perfectly legal. Completely unethical. The room was silent except for the climate control system humming. Here's my proposition, Hendricks continued. I keep Action Comics #1. Childhood dream fulfilled. In exchange, I return everything else and pay you fair market value for the action, $1.5 million. But it's worth $3.2 million, I said. At auction, with the right buyers, perfect conditions. But that takes time, commission fees, no guarantee it hits estimate. I'm offering $1.5 million cash this week. That's still taking advantage, Mom protested. Yes, he agreed again. It is. But it's better than keeping everything for $50, which I'm legally entitled to do. I looked at the comics spread across the table. Detective Comics #27, First Batman. Marvel Comics #1, First Human Torch and Submariner. Dozens of others, each a piece of history. Why? I asked. Why not just keep them all? He smiled sadly. Because 55 years ago, Bob Morrison gave a young man a chance. Called it paying forward. Time for me to do the same. I need to think. Actually, Mom interrupted, it's not your decision. We both turned to her. I sold Tyler's property without permission. Illegally. Which means this entire sale is void. She stood straighter. Return my son's collection, Mr. Hendricks, or I'll file charges for receiving stolen property. Mom. No, Tyler. I've spent 20 years dismissing something precious to you. Not anymore. She faced Hendricks. Those comics weren't mine to sell. We both know it. So let's stop pretending this is a negotiation. Hendricks studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed, actually laughed. You've got spine, Mrs. Morrison. Bob would have been proud. He carefully placed Action Comics #1 back in its protective sleeve. But we both know you won't file charges. Can't risk your nursing license. And I've got a receipt that says otherwise. The standoff stretched. Mom gripping her purse. Hendricks touching the comic like a talisman. Me wondering if I was about to lose everything or gain back only pieces. Finally, Janet Crawford cleared her throat. There might be another solution. We all turned to her. Mr. Morrison, you work at the Contemporary History Museum, correct? Yes. They've been trying to acquire a significant comics collection for their American culture wing. I've helped them source pieces before. She looked at Hendricks. What if the museum acquired the collection? Full market value. All $4.7 million. Mr. Hendricks gets a finder's fee of, say, $500,000. Mr. Morrison gets hired as consulting curator for the collection, ensuring his father's comics are preserved and displayed properly. The museum doesn't have that kind of money, I said. The Kellerman Foundation does. They've been looking for a major donation opportunity. American pop culture preservation? First appearance of Superman? That's exactly their mandate. Hendricks frowned. But then I don't get Action #1. No, Crawford agreed. But you get $500,000 for a $50 investment. And you get to be the man who helped preserve comic history, not the dealer who took advantage of a widow's mistake. That's not fair. Neither is paying $50 for $4.7 million in comics, she countered. This way, everyone wins. The museum gets a world-class collection. Tyler stays connected to his father's legacy. Mrs. Morrison's mistake gets fixed. And you profit handsomely while doing the right thing. Mom grabbed my arm. Tyler, your comics in a museum? Your father would be so proud. I thought about it. The collection I'd spent 20 years building, displayed for millions to see. Dad's Action Comics #1 behind protective glass, teaching kids about American mythology. My name on the placard. The Robert and Tyler Morrison collection. Mr. Hendricks? I said. What my father did for you, giving you time to pay, trusting you, that changed your life. This is your chance to change mine. And to ensure his comics live forever, not locked in some private vault. He sighed, touching Action Comics #1 one more time. Bob Morrison was a good man. Guess it's time I proved I learned something from him. The paperwork took 3 months. The Kellerman Foundation approved the purchase. The museum created an entire wing around the collection. I was hired as consulting curator. My salary doubled overnight. The grand opening drew thousands. Comic fans, art critics, families with kids who just wanted to see Superman's first appearance. Mom stood beside me as we cut the ribbon, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry, she whispered for the 100th time. I know. I almost destroyed everything. But you didn't. When it mattered, you fought for me. She squeezed my hand. Your father would be so proud. His comics in a museum. His son a curator. You know what he'd be most proud of? I said, watching a 7-year-old boy press his nose against the glass containing Action Comics #1, eyes wide with wonder. That kid, right there, seeing Superman for the first time, getting inspired, maybe starting his own collection. I smiled. Dad always said comics weren't about money. They were about stories, dreams, hope. $50, Mom murmured. I sold hope for $50. And we bought it back for $4.7 million, I replied. Plus a museum wing, a new career, and maybe the best story in comics history. The best. Small-town widow accidentally sells million-dollar comics at yard sale. International news coverage leads to museum acquisition. Father-son collection becomes educational treasure. Stan Lee himself couldn't write it better. She actually laughed. When does the movie come out? Already in talks. Chris Evans wants to play me. He's too handsome. Thanks, Mom. We stood there, watching streams of people discover the collection. Kids dragging parents to see Batman. Teenagers taking selfies with Superman. Scholars studying the historical significance of superhero mythology in American culture. All because Mom sold my childish comics for $50. Sometimes the worst mistakes lead to the best endings. You just have to be willing to pay more than $50 to get there. And sometimes, if you're very lucky, you find a dealer who remembers what it's like to be young and in love with stories of heroes. The Morrison Collection now receives 100,000 visitors annually. We've expanded to include Silver and Bronze Age books, original art, and creator interviews. I give tours twice a week, always ending with Action Comics #1. This comic, I tell wide-eyed kids, sold for 10 cents in 1938. My grandmother bought it for my dad. My mom sold it for $50. Now it's priceless because it belongs to all of you. They always ask how much it's really worth. More than money, I say. It's worth whatever you dream when you look at it. Mom volunteers as a docent now. She's become an expert on Golden Age comics, spouting facts about print runs and cultural significance. She still apologizes sometimes, usually after a few glasses of wine. But I've forgiven her. How could I not? She gave me something better than $4.7 million. She gave me a chance to share my father's love with the world. And that's worth more than all the comics ever printed. Even Action Comics #1. Especially Action Comics #1.